Welcome back to another episode of the devotional side of the blog. Today's readings from Psalm 72, Psalm 119, Leviticus 19, 1 Thessalonians 5:12 to 28, and Matthew 6:19 to 24. So I think if you really want to have a good grip on what I'm about to say, you should read Psalm 72. I read it from the TNIV, but I don't suppose it'll make all that much difference if you read it from another version. It really doesn't matter because all I want to say is this: we need a new normal. That's right. I said it. I'm sick of the way things are. I'm sick of the way things never change. I'm sick of the lies. I'm sick of no one having a straight answer to any of the real questions that any of us are asking. And I'm not just talking, maybe I'm not talking at all about the current COVID crisis. Maybe I'm just talking about life in general. We need a new normal. The main question, though, we're asking here about Psalm 72 is this: who is Solomon talking about? I mean, I suppose he could be talking about himself. He was king of Israel at some point in Israel's history. He could be talking about his successor. He could be talking about someone near. He could be talking about someone far. But even if he is talking about these people, or himself or another, what of it? There's nothing wrong with the king asking God to bless himself these qualities that would make a good king. I mean, what king doesn't want his people to prosper? What king doesn't feel the responsibility to protect his people and crush those who oppress them? What king doesn't want to expand his territory and rule over many in righteousness? Well, I know. But we need a new normal. I agree. I've just about given up on reading the news because you know what? I'm tired of it. Everyone lies. One day it's this thing, the next day it's that thing. And on the same day, there might be 10 different versions of this and that. I'm tired of it. We've tried. We've tried rulers. We've tried leaders. We've tried politicians. We've been there. We've done that. None of it is working. We need a new normal. And the truth is that there's no ruler on earth who fits the bill that this psalm is talking about. There are no kings, prime ministers, senators, presidents, governors who rule in righteousness. There are none who judge with justice. I mean, you think about the judges on this earth, they're flawed, they're immoral. There are no earthly kings that we want to live under as long as there is a sun and moon through all generations. We don't want that. There are no earthly kings that we want to rule from sea to sea. There are no earthly kings before whom all the other kings will bow and serve. There are no earthly kings who will bring blessing to all the nations or who will call that king blessed. There's none on this earth. And I conclude that Solomon was not writing about himself, even if his hyperbolic language may have reflected some of his own ambition. I think in the fuller sense, Solomon, the wisest person to ever live, must have realized that even he could not be writing about himself. And if we're going to stick with the Bible, there's only one person who does fit the bill. I'm treating this psalm not so much as prophecy per se, but as a kind of a prophetic reflection on what that rule might look like, coupled with the expectation that such a rule is in fact possible. And when I see this story, started here in Psalm 72, carried to its proper denouement, there's only one place that we can go. So one day Jesus appears. N.T. Wright puts it this way in the opening pages of his book, How God Became King. He says, and the story that the four evangelists tell is the story of how God became king. We need a new normal, one where the people do not stand and shout together that we have no king but Caesar, or in normal modern parlance, we have no king but Democrats, or we have no king but Republicans, or we have no king but Labor, or we have no king but Supreme Leader so-and-so. We need a new normal. We need a new normal where Jesus is king, and where we acknowledge it, where we understand it, where we submit to it. N.T. Wright goes on, he says, in fact, the ascension for many people implies Jesus' absence, not his universal presence and sovereign rule. And this time, it's not only Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John who will raise objections, it's Paul, Hebrews, and Revelation as well. They all think that Jesus is already in charge of the world. That is what they understood by God's kingdom. So Jesus on the Mountain of Ascension in Matthew 28, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Jesus in Colossians is the one for whom all things have been created, who is the head of all thrones and powers and rulers or authorities. Jesus in 1 Corinthians is the one who reigns until all things are placed under his feet. Jesus in Ephesians is the one exalted to God's right hand. Jesus in Hebrews is the one crowned with glory and honor because he suffered death. Jesus in Revelation is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He is the first, the last, the beginning, the end. Jesus, the Lamb to whom the songs of worship are sung. Jesus is the center, the Lamb in the center, on the throne, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, the Lamb who was slain. And there's so much, much, much more. And the New Testament is filled with this imagery of Jesus the King, especially this book of Revelation. We need a new normal. I agree. But this new normal does not mean simply trying to make the same progress under the same system, under the same kinds of leaders, only a little bit further away from each other. We need a new normal. We need a new kind of king. We need an entirely new setup, a new way to live, a new way to think, a new way to live and move and have our being, a new leader who will and is just and true and righteous and does truly look out after those who are oppressed, who does truly look after his people, who is truly worthy of our worship and our praise, who is truly blessed and a blessing, to whom all the leaders of the earth will look and bow and kneel. And there's only one. We need Jesus. Grace and peace. Thanks for coming by today.